If there's one thing we can say about Batman, it's that he is dedicated to his mission to rid Gotham City of crime. After all, towards the tail end of his formative years, that crucial point when who we are as a person starts to form in our minds, he was mentally scarred by witnessing the violent death of his parents. As you can imagine, this had a lasting effect on young Bruce. In response to his feelings of shame and guilt over not being able to prevent his parents' murder, Bruce dedicated himself to developing his body and mind to the point where he could stop any crime. He became Batman. However, as powerful as he had become, Bruce Wayne did very little to develop emotionally. He was forever stuck in a cycle of shame and guilt, freezing him mentally at that point when his parents were murdered in front of him. There was only one thing that seemed to help him develop emotionally, and that was love. Before I continue with the rest of the video, I just want to take a moment to plug Manly Bands, who have very kindly provided me with a 20% discount code for you viewers to use across their entire site. The main thing that attracted me to them is their very cool selection of officially licensed DC rings that are available to viewers in the US and Canada. They have designs inspired by Batman, Wonder Woman, Harley Quinn, Nightwing, Green Lantern and a bunch of other DC characters, as well as rings that contain fragments of genuine fossilized dinosaur bones. If you are getting married, are already married and want to update your wedding band, or you just want to buy some really cool rings, head over to manlybands.com/Serum Lake to get 20% off your order. Just make sure that the discount code Serum Lake is applied at the checkout. And yes, you can use this discount code on sale items to make even bigger savings. Thanks again to Manly Bands, and with that out of the way, let's get back to the video. We see a great example of this in Batman: Mask of the Phantasm. During the flashback sequences, we're introduced to Andrea Beaumont, Bruce's probable first love. Bruce and Andrea had it bad for each other, so much so that Bruce was prepared to give up his mission to live a blissful wedded life with Andrea. There's a scene in the film where Bruce and Andrea are walking through Gotham and they see a street vendor being mugged. Now keep in mind that this is before Bruce adopted the identity of Batman. He hadn't found a name for the person he truly was inside just yet. He's simply Bruce Wayne. Bruce intervenes in the mugging and beats the snot out of the thieves, including this very cool section where he leaps and punches a biker right in the face. It's at this moment that Bruce has shown his true inner self to Andrea for the first time, and she gasps in horror. Andrea had always said that she felt like she didn't belong in his big plan, that she had no idea what his plans actually were, and this is the first time she'd got a glimpse at who he really was. And the frightened reaction shocks Bruce. He was clearly feeling very good about defending a victim of crime. He was doubtlessly proud of his abilities. But seeing Andrea react that way broke his concentration, allowing one of the bikers to smash a bat against his ribs. Oh, the irony. It's at this point that Bruce realises that if he is going to be in a relationship with someone, he cannot continue with his mission. Firstly, it's not fair on them to have to sit at home each night wondering if he'll be coming home. But most importantly, how could he dedicate himself completely to his mission if he had loved ones to worry about as well? It's funny though that throughout the film, Batman finds himself staring at a portrait of his parents, the ideal couple, forever captured in a portrait, and he clearly wants that for himself, but he's seemingly incapable of moving past his grief. After some soul-searching, Bruce decides that he must abandon his quest and proposes to Andrea. However, fate had a different plan in mind for the two of them. Andrea was forced to leave Gotham suddenly, breaking Bruce's heart. We next see Bruce sometime later. It could be weeks, could be months, it's not really clear how long it's been. And there's a very clever shot showing the portrait of Thomas and Martha Wayne fading away, only to be replaced by Bruce and Alfred standing in the dark of the soon-to-be Batcave, as Bruce puts on the Batman costume for the first time. Now this isn't a joyful moment or a celebration. It's not like he's graduated from ski mask vigilante to Batman. No, this is a tragedy. Bruce Wayne is a very broken man. The murder of his parents deeply traumatized him, and the breakdown of his relationship with Andrea has driven him to further misery. Bruce stands in the dark looking at the cowl for a moment, his thoughts clearly focused on all he has lost, before he firmly puts on the cowl. It's almost as if he was putting on the costume to empower himself, shielding him from all of his pain. Alfred, Bruce's father figure, reacts in horror as he sees what's become of Bruce. It's not that this costume is frightening, it's that he recognises that any chance Bruce had of having a normal life is now gone. Batman would go on to have other relationships, both as Bruce Wayne and Batman himself. In the present day section of Mask of the Phantasm, we see Veronica Vreeland throwing a drink in Bruce's face because he never called her back after a couple of dates. And Batman has a perpetual on-again, off-again thing with both Catwoman and Talia al Ghul. Yet none of those relationships made him reconsider his vow to save Gotham. But then we have the new Batman Adventures episode, Chemistry, where Bruce Wayne meets the enchanting Susan Maguire and swaps his noble vow for wedding vows. As the audience, we are immediately suspicious of Bruce and Susan's relationship. After a chance meeting at Veronica Vreeland's 4th wedding, Batman seems distracted to the point that Robin becomes infuriated with Batman's uncharacteristic carelessness. Batman uses his master ninja skills to spy on Susan to learn about her life. He notes that she has a small garden of white flowers that she lovingly tends to. So, on their first proper date on board Bruce's yacht, Bruce presents Susan with a bunch of the same flowers, claiming it was intuition. He then proposes to Susan, and she accepts. Now, this is hardly the behaviour of the world's greatest detective. He barely knows the woman. Sure, she's clearly intelligent, good-looking and pretty funny, but where is she from? What do her parents do? What's her favourite food? None of these questions were ever answered. And it's interesting to note that Batman waits a few weeks to announce his marriage to the rest of the Bat family. I have to think that part of him knows that rushing into a marriage is a bad idea, and that his extended family would question his decision, especially if he told them that he'd proposed on the first date. There's another key thing about this scene, and it's fairly subtle, but when Bruce talks about how Susan makes him feel, she brings a lightness to him that reduces his pain, making him think that everything's going to be okay, or happiness, as some people call it. We can hear the music from Mask of the Phantasm that played during the scene when Bruce put on the Batman costume for the first time, as Bruce announces that he's going to give up the costumed life. This musical choice directly connects the two scenes. Of course, fate has a very different plan in mind for Batman once again. During the wedding reception, Batman receives a frantic call from Veronica Vreeland, and it's interesting to see that when she's in trouble, she doesn't call her tank-driving father General Vreeland, she calls Bruce. Apparently something's wrong with her new husband Michael, but the line cuts out before Veronica can explain. It's in this scene we're delighted by the first of several horrible scenes. Veronica locks herself in the panic room, protected by intense lasers that would burn through the flesh of anyone that touched them. Michael demonstrates his inhumanity by sticking his head through the lasers, exposing his green fleshy underside, evoking films like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, inciting a fear of the other. When Bruce arrives at Veronica's home, there's an explosion and the building is on fire. Using his ninja skills, Batman is able to rescue Veronica, but she is unconscious and unable to tell him what happened. When Michael turns up at the hospital, stating that he had been at a business meeting, very convincing, that cucumber head, Bruce revealed that he had hired armed guards to protect Veronica while they got to the bottom of what happened. Knowing that this will cause Michael to panic and potentially reveal himself, Bruce instructs Robin and Batgirl to follow him, and we learn that Michael is one of Poison Ivy's plant clones. Ivy's abilities as a scientist have come a long way since her first appearance. She initially developed a gigantic Venus flytrap in Pretty Poison, moved on to short-lived Cactus Men clones in House and Garden, but has now seemed to have perfected the process. These new plant people seem to live much longer and are capable of independent thought. Michael was not supposed to attack Veronica, but she discovered his secret. There's another wonderful body horror moment here where Ivy rips off Michael's human skin to reveal his true form. Given that Michael has exposed her plan to create an army of perfect partners for Gotham's wealthy elite, murder them and then run off with the inheritance money, Ivy has to move to the next phase of her plan before she's found out. Bruce is unaware of the scheme. While on a cruise with other newlyweds, he begins to see the pieces of the puzzle come together. As much as his heart wanted this relationship with Susan to be real, his deductive mind saw through it, even if it was a little late. The separation between Bruce and Batman completely disappears at this point. Note that any warmth in Bruce's voice is gone as he enters interrogation mode with Susan. He is stern, cold, deductive, and threatening. And rather than experiencing heartbreak as he had before, Batman is more analytical, getting frustrated with himself for not noticing the signs sooner. The relationship was too perfect. He should have known it was a trap right from the outset. Yes, Ivy's pheromones are difficult to resist, but as Susan points out, they only lure people in. Susan had to do the work to get her claws into him. The moment where Susan reveals her true self with her tentacle-like vines coming out from under her wedding dress to ensnare Batman is another great horror scene. It evokes myths and folk tales about beautiful women secretly being monsters that lure men to their death with their feminine wiles. Saying that out loud, that's actually pretty sexist. And there's a great exchange that really underlines what a fool Batman has been in this episode.
Relationships aren't supposed to be easy. Even I know that, and I'm just a vegetable.
Now, Poison Ivy doesn't know it, but she just got the best revenge possible on Batman. He always wanted to have what his parents had, a strong, loving relationship, that idealised version of a marriage that children have in their minds. It was the one thing that almost prevented him from becoming Batman, and when Andrea Beaumont left him, the despair put him back on the path to becoming Batman. With his relationship with Susan, Batman felt the weight of his parents' death had lifted, and that he could finally settle down and live a normal life. But it was not to be. It was all a sham. I often say that every setback is an opportunity in disguise, and in Batman's case, yes, he had his heart broken by Andrea, and now potentially Susan. But just think of all the people that he has helped as Batman. If he had married Andrea and settled down, what would have happened to people like Dick Grayson and Tim Drake? What would have happened when the forces of the Imperium invaded Earth in Justice League Secret Origin? What would have happened to Terry McGinnis? Think of the thousands of people's lives that would be completely different, just because of Andrea Beaumont's choice. It's perfectly natural to feel anger, sadness, or any other negative emotion when things go wrong, but it can't be our only reaction. We need to try to move on and do something positive. Now, getting back to the episode, Ivy and Michael board the cruise liner and reveal the scale of her plan. Every couple on board this ship has been infiltrated by her plant people. Ivy destroys the ship's hull and leaves the wealthy elite to drown while she and her plant people go off to claim their inheritance. Robin and Batgirl arrive on the scene armed with trichloroethane, which makes short work of the plant people. Just look at how Michael melts away with his eyeballs and teeth rolling around in the pool of goop. Ugh. Despite all she's done, Batman tries to help Poison Ivy. When their cruise ship explodes and splits in two, Ivy calls for help and Batman reaches for her, but the waves claim her. And I really love the final moment of this episode. Batman watches from afar as Susan, frantically looking out of the porthole, sinks to the bottom of the ocean. Batman takes his wedding ring and casually flips it into the ocean. It's not clear if Susan would be able to survive being underwater. She is a plant person after all, but Batman's reaction is just plain cold. The fact that he doesn't seem to experience any sadness suggests to me that once he realised he was under the influence of Ivy's pheromones, he was able to break free, or at the very least he was able to rationalise why he shouldn't feel sad. Regardless, I also think that the act of putting on the Batman costume acts as a form of armour for him, protecting him from all of his feelings of loss and despair, just like it had done years ago on that one dark night in a cave deep underground. Okay, that's the end of this week's video essay. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, share the video, tell all your friends about me, because it really helps. Another great way to help me out would be to make use of the thanks button. You can donate $1 or $2 to help me maintain the quality of these videos. Likewise, I offer channel memberships for $1.99 per month. This will get you early access to my weekly video essay, sporadic members only videos, priority responses to your comments, an icon on your profile indicating that you're one of my people, and custom emojis. So next week, I'm going to be back looking at another villain that appeared during the new Batman adventures. A love letter to the classic pulpy adventure characters of yesteryear. We're going to talk about Roxy Rocket. Hope to see you then.